Howdy, folks! Hey, and welcome to the ComicBase Livestream. Hopefully you're all hearing me and everything's going okay. Let me just pause a couple of monitor videos out here so I don't get distracted by having like 20 different pictures of myself on six, different screens to look at. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming to the live stream. Yeah, we're broadcasting to you today,
Howdy, folks.
and
Hey.
whoa, and we've got an echo. All right. This is not a live stream without a technical glitch or two, so I'm glad we could bring that to you now. Anyway, thanks for coming out. Oh, you're catching us from out here in Franklin, Tennessee, just outside Nashville. It is a lovely day for once, and we hope you're all having a great time. Thanks for all for joining us. I'd like to encourage you to put any questions you have in the chat for the video, and I will get to as many of them as I can. Already saw we had a request here from, I believe it was Greg. Let me get our titles up here, by the way. So let's go turn on the key here, and we got Greg. We'll be answering your question about reports here. I'm gonna make you hold out till about halfway through. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. Just I actually sort of planned out what I wanted to talk about during the show, and then it just kind of the answer to your question lays about halfway through in any kind of like logical timeline, at least as far as I can tell. All right, well, anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll take it from here. So the topic of today, I want to really get down to numbers and reporting and such, and I've got two reasons for this. One is I tend to shape the show around what have we been getting a lot of tech support on, in terms of just whenever we happen to pick up the phone, what are people asking us in terms of the questions. And if it's anything we think is like an area of general knowledge that would be nice to talk about, we put it out there and we try to talk about it in the live stream. If it's something that people are really confused about and we can do anything about it in order to assuage your confusion, whether it's an interface issue or just some way we're messaging or whatever else, we try to fix whatever the heck we're doing that made you get frustrated and call us, and we try to take it from there. So on that note, let me give you before I get down to it all, I want to talk a little bit about the 20.0.3 update. We talked about this 3 weeks ago. It's the latest major, it's kind of a quarterly update of features and fixes that we put into ComicBase, which is required. Which is to say, if you haven't downloaded it, we're going to not be able to give you content updates until you download it, because certain things change with the format of the downloads and different content handling and things like that. We need to make sure at certain points during the year that we get everyone on the same page, just so we're not trying to write data in 6 different formats to try to guess what version you had and write it out to that. So this is one of those catch-up releases. If you are using ComicBase 2020 in any form whatsoever, we do need you to download ComicBase 20.0.3. Build whatever. We don't care. The latest build is 3779, but as long as it's 20.0.3, you're good. You should have gotten a newsletter announcement on that earlier today. Might have been even the one that told you about the live stream. If you did not get a newsletter announcement, please go on over to comicbase.com, click on the My Registration, the My Account link, and go to your profile and tick off that you want to get the ComicBase announcements list at the very least, because that lets us tell you, about big stuff like this, and if we ever run a sale this year or next year or whatever, it tells you about stuff like that as well, and just cool new things we're doing, and any kind of important updated stuff or whatever else. We try very hard not to send out more than about a newsletter per every 3-4 weeks tops. But anyway, it is good if we can catch you up once in a while. So anyway, if you didn't get the announcement in your email, check your spam filter, and if if it's not there, check on the account. Please tick off that you want to join that mailing list. If you did get the mailing list and you're saying, how do I download ComicBase 20.0.3? Depending on what version of ComicBase you're coming from and whatever else, there may be 1 or 2 wrinkles. I would actually say the easiest way to go right now is just go to, right in the same place on comicbase.com, under My Account, go to Registrations, click right next to your serial number for the version of ComicBase you're using is a little green download link. Just download the program installer for whichever version you're running, and that's always going to be the very latest build we've got out there. Run that. It will, when you install it the first time, it'll do a little bit of, validation and touch up on your current database, but then you're going to see all your data and everything will be good to go. And you'll have the very current version of the program that way, and you shouldn't have any other worries. So if you haven't done it yet, please do, because we are getting a fair number of calls from folks who haven't been able to get downloads for a couple weeks because they somehow didn't get the note about the program update. So we do want you to do that. Please do that, and then we it'll save us a lot of time leading you through on the phone. Anyway, that's the big news on that. Other than that, we are starting to pull into the next release cycle of what we want to do with ComicBase, and one of the big things that we want to focus on is data and reporting and analytics and so forth. So I want to talk this time about some of the analytics that are available to you right now in the program, but lead you through maybe some things that you didn't know how to do, or just kind of weird things. And also, I have a couple bags of tricks I want to share with you later on, which actually are like a free goodie, which is in the show notes, of scripts that we use here to do certain things that are kind of cool. And some of these things, maybe we make them a little more, forward in the program going out, but these are things you can do right now in ComicBase if you have the Pro or Archive editions, especially, where they give you access to the advanced find feature, where you can do some really neat stuff. And I'm going to go through those first. All right, let's just check the chat real quick. Wow, planning. Yeah, all right. Thanks a lot. Okay, cool. Okay, and I think we are pretty good. Hey, and Agent of Camps had made it to a live stream. Sweet. Great. Really, guys, I'm always glad to see all you guys, and thanks a lot for coming. It's fun. I mean, especially when we're all stuck here in this quarantine foo. It's great to be able to talk to you all and just interact, just with folks that maybe we all only know each other from our work and from tech calls or whatever else. It's great to see the interaction with you guys on the live stream. So thanks for making it. Okay, so number one thing I wish folks knew about ComicBase reporting that they don't know, I'm probably going to say, is the collection statistics. And let me switch over to the monitor right now so I can say what the heck I'm talking about. Okay, so most people, their very first question when they start entering anything in ComicBase is, well, where's my collection, right? How can I see just my stuff? Because one of the things we did with ComicBase is we very intentionally said, look, we're going to show you every comic book we've ever heard of, with all the pricing, the data, and whatever else. And the whole idea is that you can come down very rapidly and say, oh yeah, I got John Constantine Hellblazer. I got issue number 1, I got number 2, but it's only in very fine condition, whatever else. But we wanted to make it like this quick to, be entering in, your collection. So you didn't need to enter much. You just more or less had to go through and just knock out, well, which ones have I got? Well, the very first question anyone who is not coming from this mode thinks about then is, well, how do I see my stuff? I see everything in the universe here. I just want to see my collection. And we do, try to show you your collection. We kind of bold it out a little bit. It's maybe a little more or less subtle depending on how good your monitor is and, and what theme you're choosing. But, we try to do that. We also had some new things in this timeout where you can come up on the view menu here, and you can say things like items to show. The default is going to be all items, but you also can say things like, just show me the owned items, at which point, here's just the John Constantines that I own, right? And you can go through the database like that. And then the next thing, because we did this, honestly, not because it's super useful once you have more than a few hundred comic books, but because we just got so many requests for it, is we just added in a find that says literally, give me a big list of my stuff, where you just come up under here and you say find other. What do you want to find? And let's go down to the main thing over here. My comics. It's as easy as it gets. Just show me my stuff. Find. And it's going to do a search, and because I have more than a few things, it's going to show 56,110 things in a big list, which is, I'm going to say, the least useful way I could think of to view my collection, because it is 56,110 things in a big list. And even though I'm looking at them 5,000 at a time down here, let me see if have I got the magnification working on the mouse here? Yes, I do. Sweet. Even though I've got that turned down there and I can page back and forth 5,000 results at a time, this is not great. What this mostly is good for is just like a confidence factor to say, like, it actually is entering my stuff. It actually is paying attention to what I'm doing. Trust me, ComicBase is definitely paying attention to what you're doing as long as you're entering your stuff in the quantity field. By the way, fun fact, everything you do in ComicBase is saved to disk the second you do it. So by the time, if I go in here and I say I have not one but 2 copies of 2020 Machine Man, number 2, if I change that there, the second I've gone to the next field, it's already committed that change. If I turn off my machine right now and I load this up again, that change will have been saved. That's why there's no save button through a lot of these dialogues. But anyway, so yeah, it is paying attention to what you're doing. But let's talk about how to get to your data in kind of a useful way. So, as you saw, I have 56,000 some comics in my collection. What do I really want to know about them? The real question, and this is, I admit, this is annoying. to hear this when everyone ever asks you on the phone and say, well, you say, well, how do I see my stuff? And I'm like, how do you want to see your stuff? And they're like, yeah, just show me my stuff. And I'm trying to fish around, trying to say, and really what I'm getting down to is like, well, what do you want to do with it? And I realize if you've come to the point where you're calling up on tech support and some guy's saying, well, what do you want to do? And it sounds like he's trying to psychoanalyze you. There is some better way of handling this question that I have not figured out in 20 some years of doing this program. Because it really comes down to is you can see your stuff any way you darn well want just about. And it's all really the first question that you ought to be asking behind any of this reporting stuff is, well, what am I trying to get done, right? So again, if what you're trying to do is just a confidence factor, is the thing tracking my stuff? There's a couple ways, again, switching the view, doing a find for my comics that will, very quickly assure you that that's what's going on. But the number one thing I'm going to guess, and I'm trying to mind read a little bit here, but it seems to be a pretty safe guess, that people really want to do when they say, can I see my stuff, is they want to say, well, what's my stuff worth? And here, we've done, I'm going to say this is a justifiable, but not necessarily right interface choice, where we say, yeah, the one report that people most want to get, which is what's my stuff, we did not actually put under the menu called report. This may or may not have been a great choice. We made the choice 20 some years ago, and it's one of those things where once you have an installed base, it becomes harder to move things, but I know why we made the choice. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and try the magnification again. I know I can do this. Oh, come on. Play along, mouse. There we go. All right. So I'm going to switch over the screen here, magnified. If you go into the File menu, there's this item here called Collection Statistics, or F12. By the way, one of the ways you can move around ComicBase much quicker is just whenever you see a shortcut like this, if you can memorize the 4 or 5 that you use frequently, you don't even need to go to the menus, just slap F12 and you'll get there. So collection stats, and let's pull this up from my collection, or at least a copy of my collection, which I'm using for the live stream. And I'm going to back out again so I can see what I'm doing. And of course, it came up on the other screen. Sweet. All right. By the way, guys, don't get excited. This is not my real collection's worth. I added a bunch of foo in there before the show just to make it look like I had better comics than I own. So what this is saying right now on this collection stats is it just kind of says, look, for comic books, I in theory have I have 60,000 comics in stock, 55,000 unique ones. There are, I'm looking at my comics here. I could look at the entire collection's value. I could look at just my books. I could look at just my what am I at here? Whoops, and let's go down to my magazines, etc. But I could, but I'm going to pay attention to my comic books right now. All right, so here's the overall thing here. So I've got 60,000 individual comic books. 55,000 of them are unique issues. All right, so you might ask yourself, when I was doing that search a minute ago for my stuff, why did it come up with 56,000-ish things? It's because those were the things that were actually unique to each other. All right. I also have a choice. I can show breakdowns by a number of different things. I can break them down by what cover price things were, what era are they from, which ones are golden age, which ones are not, breaking down by publisher, for instance, and let's sort them by the total. Let's go by the total value here. And why is it not doing what I want it to do right now? What? Oh, that's what I meant to do. Total quantity. That's what. I'm sorry, I got it. So I click by total quantity, and by the way, if you click something and you click it twice, it'll reverse sort. So as you can see, I'm mostly a Marvel guy. 12,000 of my comics are Marvel, 9,500 in their DC, and then it gets kind of messy, and there's hundreds and hundreds of comics in my collection. But this is a good way of getting just the overall markup value of your collection. By the way, if you look on the right here, you see that here's the current value, here's the average value per comic. Again, this is not indicative of real life. I just added in a bunch of comics, so this isn't really my collection. This also is not really my cost. But if I did need to print out any one report and give it to an insurance agent and say, well, what's my collection worth for the purposes of insuring it, this is the thing that more than anything they will generally ask for, is they will ask you to print this report out. Let me go ahead and preview it right now, and I'm going to get out of magnification mode so I can carry that off to the other screen so you can see it. Unfortunately, I've got multiple screens going here, and only one of them is visible to y'all, so work with me a second as I try to make that happen. Okay, here we are. So So here's my comics right over here. 59,000 titles, 60,376 different comic books are represented. Here's, page 1 of 29 of all the things in my collection. This is, for me, I get 60,000 comics. I got a fairly concise report. I can, print this. I can save as a PDF. And this is the thing that my insurance agent generally is going to ask for. All right, next question is, how do I save it as a PDF? How do I email it to someone else, right? I can print it. At least a 29-page report won't, bankrupt, me on toner and ink, for the whole thing. But it's much more convenient if I could just email this to someone in general. The way I do that, I come up here in these icons in the top left, and these have been redesigned. They were goofy before in the previous version of Crystal Reports. Crystal Reports, by the way, is our reporting engine, and they've gotten goofier. So they used to have one that was a bit of a, I don't know what you would call it. It looked like an envelope to me. Now it's a disk drive with an arrow pointing off of it. I don't even know how I would even describe this to someone. Excuse me just a moment. For some reason my phone, when I asked it to power off, did not power off. I guess it was waiting on a passcode to allow me to power it off. That's an unusual feature of the latest Android. Okay, anyway, so you can do two things. You can print it, and you can print it to a PDF. You can also export it. My go-to is to say export, and of type, and I choose PDF. PDF is an Adobe Acrobat file. Give it a file name. Actually, I'm going to say where I want to save it to. And by the way, another quick just life hack tip is whenever you get the where do you want to save anything dialogue, for me, unless I'm really trying to save something in a particular place and I really am concentrating and I really know what I'm doing, my default is just save the dang thing to your desktop. Why? Because on the desktop you can always find it. You don't need to hunt through folders. It's always going to be right there. And if you're like me, if you have anything extra laying on your desktop, it will drive you absolutely around the bend until you've handled the extra things that were on your desktop. All right, so export's completed. It took all of like a second. Let's go back, zoom out, and then if I come over here, and I think I chose an amazing name for it. I minimize a few things so I can actually see what I'm doing. This is fascinating. I have a modal window in front of me somewhere. I'm not sure where. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, yeah, this is annoying. And did my machine just decide I'm going to die when I go to print a PDF? God, I hope not, because that's really going to get annoying if so. Let me see what I can do here, guys. Just bear with me a moment. All right, here we go. All right, I'm with it. By the way, this actually came up in another tech support call just today. Is a guy was it's called a modal dialogue. So dialogue boxes can be modeless or modal. This is like just computer food. This is like, we are now into life hack territory. So what the whole deal is on this is, most windows, they're called modeless because I can move them around like this, I can click to the back, and they go away in the back, and I can do other things with my machine, right? So you see how I could, most browser windows are famously modeless, right? But the most popular dialogue you're going to get is modal, right? Which is to say, you can't do a darn thing till you've dealt with me, is the one that asks you to either open a file or save a file. So if you go up here and under ComicBase, for instance, you say save a copy. This dialogue right here, it's this save, wherever you want to save something dialogue. That's the one that we had open a minute ago when we were saving that PDF. This guy's modal. I can't do anything else. If my sound was up, you'd be hearing it just beeping at me right now. It really wants an answer. Now, modal dialogues, you know what they are because, first of all, they don't take no for an answer. Well, this way, they want some answer. They'll typically also have a cancel dialogue to make them go away if you need to, and typically also you can hit escape on your keyboard to make them go away. But What had happened here is, as we're doing the live stream, I actually have 3 monitors going at the same time, and a lot of times I have way too much stuff to look at, and it's easy for me to lose my place between all the different things I'm trying to juggle at once. And I had opened up a second report window on another window, and it was modal, and I couldn't do anything else until that was dismissed. So that's what hung me up there. But if you guys ever get to a point where your computer is, again, like it's not answering to me, everything's, the clock is still ticking, other things still seem like they're moving along, but I don't seem to be able to do anything else, look around on your computer and see if you don't have a modal dialog open. By the way, another good just life hack Windows tip you can have is if you use the Alt-Tab key. And of course it's not going to come up on the window I need it to, but you guys can all do it at home. It's for fun. Hold down Alt and Tab, and it's going to show you a quick overview of every window you have open on your entire machine, and that's a good way to find windows you have open that you don't necessarily see at one given point. All right, back to the main plot. All right, so the number one thing I'd say is, remember again, it's like whenever you go for any kind of report is, what am I trying to get done here? And so if your answer is, I want to see what my stuff is worth, go get a collection report, go under collection statistics. It used to be, it was under the file menu for a very good reason, because it was statistics about the file, your database file itself is the way that was all borne out. That's why it's not under the report menu, although I'm going to say, maybe we should move it, because it is one of those reports that seems like it comes up so much. I wish I had more visibility in the program. But the collection statistics window is information about your databases itself, as well as its overall value. And it's the most concise report that gives you that answer, and so it's my number one go-to. If I just want to know, like, hey, how am I doing in terms of my collection, that's the one I run to first. Now, on the other hand, maybe I want a little more detail. All right, at which point, let's go to the place you think you'd find all this stuff, the report menu. So over here at the top, and you'd think, come on, good grief. Sorry, there we go. So under the report menu here, there's a couple of different items here. These are our big reports. So there's collection overview, collection report, divider labels, identification labels, item checklist, price labels, and price list. Now, if you like labels, price label, ID label, and divider labels hopefully are self-explanatory. I'm not going to get into them today. I'm going to pay attention to the reports today. So let's talk about the big ones here. All right, first of all, I'm going to talk about the one that we're not going to do. All right, price list. What is a price list? It is literally a list of everything I have got, that I would potentially want to sell. It's great if I want to give this as something that I give to say I want to sell my whole collection at once. And I want to just say, look, this is what I've got, this is what I'm asking for it, and here's all the detail on this one. This is great for that exact use case, where I want to maybe give that to someone where my whole collection is apparently worth $1 million, and they say, but I'm a nice guy, I'll take $850,000 for it. So I ship that off to Mile High, and of course he sends me back a large check. That's of course how life goes, right? Anyway, if you are not actively in the process of selling your collection, this is probably not the report for you. So let's move on to the ones that are probably a little bit more interesting. All right, collection report is the default report. So when you say, I just want to print a report on my collection, this is the one it defaulted to when you first opened the program. All right, let's talk a little bit about what this report is. All right, now there's a little preview of it you can kind of see down here. It gives you an idea of the format these things are going to fall into. It's going to have a picture of the book if you want. It'll have one line per item in your collection. So the very first thing you ought to be thinking is, hey, that sounds cool. That's very detailed. But then if you think, I have 60,000 comic books, you start thinking, how many lines are going to fit on a page? The answer is going to be like 20, 30, depending. If you print it really small, maybe even get 50 on there, and then you divide 60,000 by 50, and then you get a large amount of paper. And you're thinking, okay, this is clearly one that if I do print it, I'm going to want to either view it online or I'm going to want to view it as a PDF document. Do this before you hit print on your computer, because your toner cartridges will thank you. Anyway, but what's going to do is it's going to give you the detail where it'll give you the number, the condition, the quantity, the cost, the value, the selling price, and any notes on any one of these issues. So let's just pull up one for the, we'll pull up for a title, and then let's see what that looks like. All right, so I'm going to do this for the current title. I think I'm on Classic Battlestar Galactica. Actually, let me pull it for a selected title. I'm just going to pull a couple here, and we'll do it that way. Let me zoom out so once again I can see what I'm doing. All right. So let's see. Let's pick some good ones. Here's our titles window. I'm going to go titles in stock, and I'm going to choose it for I don't know. I'll just choose a half dozen over here. Okay. All right. So I've chose 6 titles over there. And I can use either a basic item, which looks like this, or I can go with a summary report. The summary report, as you see from the preview over on the right there, just lists you the total for all the titles. So I'm going to go for basic over here. Go ahead and include the storylines and the creators. That sounds fine. Cover size, sure, 48 looks good. I can go bigger if I want. And then I also have some options of things like, now in the collection report, it's typically only going to show the items you actually own. So that's not a big deal. Let's talk a little bit about the custom fields down here. All right. Custom fields, if you have the Pro or the Archive Edition, we give you, for every single item, you've got 4 or so different custom fields that you can add information to. For instance, a box number we're using in this database. You could have been, and then also checkboxes, things like, is this signed? And also dates. For instance, what date of, did I acquire it? Or what date, what date do I want to, what date did I get at CGC or something? You could, anything that's of that sort of date, you can, whatever your needs are, you can include that information. All right. The good and the bad of custom fields is you can do anything you want with them, and we didn't even have to guess what those things might have been and try to, figure out everyone's quirky, idiosyncratic ways of collecting, which of course we could never do, right? We just give you, some room to play. The downside is because we didn't know what you're going to do with them, all we can do when you choose them is we can say, well, for each one of these guys, we'll open up a second line, and we'll sort of stagger step. Here's where all the fields are, and we'll just sort of spray out the information. We don't know if these things are meant to be long fields or short fields. We don't know if, which ones are super more important versus others. So we're just going to include them all. If you can avoid it, I would say try to avoid using custom fields in our report because it almost doubles the length of all your reports. It just... And honestly, because you get the stagger steppy kind of feel, because what we're fighting here is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So if you have to kind of use 2 lines for every one, it is possible to read it. It's just not a lot of fun. It's very hard to scan down the list and see things. So I would say in general, if you can avoid seeing custom fields, avoid clicking anything on there, because if you click anything on there, it's going to have to open up that second line. There's no way I can say, for instance, box number, squish a few things over, chop off the notes a bit, and sort of slide it at the end of the line. We can't know that level of detail that we'd need to know in order to make that sort of thing work. And so we have to go with the whole second line thing ahead of time. So, it's there for you to use, but I'd say be a little careful. All right. Now, with any report you've got over here, so what we're doing right now is I chose 6 titles. I'm doing a basic report. I'm showing some covers, showing some creators. All right. My go-to is I always hit preview before I hit print. Why do I do this? All right, let's see why. All right, so when I hit preview, this is maybe all I wanted to see in the first place. So, by the way, this is what a collection report of my Freaks from the Heartland collection from Freaky Creatures, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, etc. This is 2 pages, based on those things. And by the way, you can page forward and back. Going up here, you can jump to an individual page or so forth. Anyway, this is the format that this comes into. Now again, the reason I preview always is half the time all I want to do is kind of sort of scan through the data on the screen. I didn't really want to print anything. The other half of the time for me is I want to export as a PDF anyway, save it save as a file. So freak collection report, right? And just save it down there, and then I'm done. Now, every once in a great while, I will actually want to print this thing, at which point I'll hit the print button over here, choose my printer, and it will start spitting paper out. But that's how that goes. So you never really give anything up by hitting preview instead of print, but I guess if you're feeling very confident, you know what you're doing, go ahead and hit print first. But that is not how I go about my reports. All right. Now you might have seen we had a couple other options over there. Let's go back to that collection report. And let's talk about these 2 other buttons over here on the bottom. All right. All right, so these ones only appear if you have ComicBase Pro or Archive Edition. So they're not in the Express or Free Edition, so don't bother looking for them. They're not there. What these do is they let you save the report data as either HTML, so you can just view it in a web browser, or you can save it to the web site, which is saving it to your account on comicbase.com, which then allows the mobile app, the ComicBase mobile app, to pick up the report and view it directly on your device. So let's get to that in a little bit. That's going to be super confusing if we jump into it now. I want to hit some of the rest of the reports, but then we'll talk more about how to use that mobile app. All right, that's how that stuff goes. Let me, before I get too carried away, let me do a quick check-in with the chat, see how we're doing. And waiting for the chat to refresh. I know you can do it. And come on. Come back to me. Oh, looks like my chat went away on me. Darn. That is a mistake. All right, so let me take care of something here, and I will get to this in just a second. I'm just trying to figure out where... remember you're talking about modal dialogues? I fear I have another one hiding on me someplace, and I just need to make sure it's closed, so bear with me just a moment. No, it could be that my machine just decided to take a dive on me. Because I am able to swap between things, but I'm not having a great deal of joy beyond that. So let me... Well, hang on, come on back. No, H2R graphics is just biffing on me. Pardon me just for a moment, folks. I'm going to vamp for a moment as we try to get my graphic stuff working once again. Welcome again to Livestream. This is why you know it's not the recorded stream. If this were the recorded stream, I might just take this little snip on the tool and keep this dead part out for a second. But in the meantime, let's see if I can answer any questions. I'm going to pull this up in another window because I think I can still do that. I think I have enough control over my apparently overheating computer to play with that. But let's find out. All right, so if I go over here and let's go to YouTube. That is freaky. Watching yourself on YouTube. I'm not even going to show you that because it's just too weird. All right, so on YouTube. All right. Agent Camp says, LOL, accidentally hit print to preview, got about 20 pages before I got stopped, had to pull the paper out. I have definitely done that before. Robert has said, have I got control of H2R graphics yet? No, I do not. Darn it, that is a shame. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to have to restart the graphics program that's putting on the on-screen graphics and get that rolling again, because it's really useful to have that around to be able to chat with y'all, and it apparently just decided to up and crash on me. So give me just a second to get that configured again. It involves nothing more than just taking a chroma window, throwing it on your third monitor, setting the key on the whole thing, grabbing the view code from the current live stream video, as long as your API code is already entered into the whole thing, putting that into your chat, refreshing the chat, and then you're good to go, right? This is what could be simpler. When you put it that way, it's just funny. All right, so let's pull up the things here and let's knock off a couple of chats before we go further. All right, not indicative of real life. Yeah, Greg, I wish I could tell you that I have an awesome comic collection. I don't. I have a lot of comics, but they're, yeah, I mean, my average comic value is about $5. You know, I am so thoroughly down the average of our comic user base on that, I couldn't even tell you. I got a bunch of stuff that's absolute junk. I got a few nice things. Some of them are up on my wall, and some of them are not for sale. But that's not where my major investment is in ComicBase. It's not the comics themselves. It's just the way my life worked out. Robert says, insurance company also asked for a list of comics greater than a certain amount in value. And Robert, I was thinking of you, and we're gonna hit that one as soon as we get the stuff on Find. I think you will dig that. Agent Cam said, my report is 5,986 pages long. Awesome. Okay, and yes, I accidentally hit print and had to hit it. All right, it's a comic show. Indeed it is. Okay, let's get back to the whole thing. I think we've managed to reset life, and that actually, as weird stuff that happens on a live stream goes, we've had worse. All right, let's get back to ComicBase here, and let me just launch it again. Gotta find it on my desktop. Alright, and drag it over to the monitor that you guys can actually see. And by the way, okay, let's switch back over there. By the way, and guys, in case you're thinking I've gone blind in my old age, purple is not my go-to color. The reason I'm using purple for the Livestream theme is because I'm never going to mistake that one for my real database, which, again, we're talking just like life hacks over this whole thing. If you ever are in a position where you have to manage multiple databases, one of the best things you can ever do is take each database, go to themes, and choose a different theme for each of your databases. So, you know, you could say, you know, make the color be, you know, green, or, you know, make it, you know, just, you know, red, or whatever else. Or, you know, just choose something, you know, choose an entirely different, you know, background, you know, scheme, whatever you like, but make them look different from each other, and make them different enough so that if you accidentally launch the one that you didn't mean to be working in, you will instantly know, oh, wait, no, this is Joe's database. Let me not do my week's comic entry into that one. Otherwise, I will be spending about an hour taking it all out again and doing it all over again. True story. That this actually is the sort of thing that happens around here. If you're ever wondering why a weird feature gets into ComicBase, there's usually a true story behind it. So anyway, that's a thing. Okay, let's get back over to the other reports. All right, so we talked a lot about collection report. Just to summarize the whole thing, if I just want to know what my stuff is worth, you know, the collection statistics over under the file menu is my go-to with the report that it prints. If I need to know line by line what something's worth, the collection report is my go-to for that one. The split in the difference report, which I find to be my #1 best mobile report, is one that's under here called the, you know, it's now called the collection overview. It used to be called the title report. There's reasons for both. I don't know that we nailed the name on this with either one. It used to be called the title report because the idea is it would take a particular title, like Aliens versus Predator, and it would summarize what it was all about. What did you have? What did you not have? We learned very quickly, as soon as we rolled that out, because it was super logical to us, but we learned very quickly, absolutely no one understood what we were talking about with the whole thing. Nobody ever used it. And which is a shame, because it is my favorite report for real life. All right, let's have a look at this one and see what we're getting into. So I'm going to choose a couple of titles. And here I'm going to, let's go up to the top. One World Manga, blah, blah, blah. All right, so here's a dozen or so titles. All right, you notice how, when you come down here, the options I've got for this report are, do I want to see items in my collection, missing items? I can uncheck one, I can uncheck the other, but I can't uncheck both. I got to show something. But I can say, well, look, am I looking to fill in my stuff? Am I looking to show off what I have? Or what have you. And then it says, do I want to group the issues together, or do I want to list them individually? I can further limit it by, you know, only show things I've got versus showing every variant under the planet and so forth. And do I want to show a cover? All right, let's have a look at this report. Once again, I'm going to go and preview it. And zoom out. Out is the way to go. And of course, it pops up on the other screen. Let's bring that over to the right screen. Okay. And let's bounce it on this one over here. Okay, so the collection report, like I said, it's a really tight report. I've got a thumbnail just to kind of cue me in on what title I'm talking about, period. So if, like, why do, sorry, brief digression. You might have asked yourself, why do price guides bother putting all those little pictures at the top? So if you look, you open up an Overstreet price guide, you know, above the, you know, vast list of information, it shows a little picture of a lot of different books. What that's there for, and honestly, it's why all the pictures in ComicBase Pro are there, is to give you an idea that you're on the right title. So if I'm talking about Legion of Superheroes 2nd Series, I can tell at a glance, oh right, it's, you know, the $1 cover one that, you know, had, you know, was edited by, you know, so and so, and, you know, featured blah blah blah, you know, as opposed to the, you know, dark one that came out, you know, recently. It's $3.99. So it helps a lot just to say, oh yeah, I'm talking about the right series, and that's what this all kind of comes from. The archive edition, by the way, that's the one that shows every picture of everything, which is considerably more pictures, but that's why that, you know, whole feature is there, period. The Pro is there really just to imitate what a Overstreet price guide would dream of doing if they had enough room to show, you know, the number ones for every single title in the database. It's there to help you find that you're on the right title. But if you're really looking for cover reference for every single weird variant, every single whatever else, that is an enormous amount of database, you know. And so until DVDs came along, in particular, you know, dual layer DVDs and Blu-rays, it wasn't even something that anyone could dream of doing. But that's where the archive edition came out. Anyway, so ComicBase history. Let's go back to the thing here. All right, so collection overview. What's going to tell me with 1 line per title? You can get, you know, in my case, I guess it's 3 lines per title. There's the title itself, how many comics I've got of it, what's the total value I've got in that title. Because I chose to see both which ones do I own and which ones I'm missing. It shows it in this format like that, but it's going to do them as tight as it possibly can. It's just, have I got it? Have I not got it? Nothing else. It doesn't tell me details on who wrote it, who drew it, but, you know, and so forth. But it's really, really good. If what I'm really trying to do is figure out, you know, I'm at a comic convention or a comic store, and I want to know, hey, I'm trying to fill in my, you know, my copy of the 3 o'clock cover, you know, club. Which was the issue I was missing, right? I've got 1B. I wouldn't hurt if I had 2A or 2, right? But I don't need to buy 3, 4, 5. I've already got them. That's the thing that drives me crazy. I've bought Hellblazer 42 about 6 times before I started figuring out to carry this report around with me. All right, let me show one other version of this report, which is even better if what I'm doing is viewing this on a mobile device. And that is, I'm going to go back here and go to not columns view. I'm going to go to report. And collection overview, and this time I'm going to group the issues. Right, I'm going to select a few titles. I still got the same 15. Let's go ahead and go with those, and let's preview it, and let's see what we see. All right, this time out, the way it shows them to you is, all right, I've got to run, you know, One World Manga. I've got 1 through 2 and 6. I'm missing 3 through 5. Right, notice it didn't have to say 3, 4, 5. It's just I'm missing 3 through 5. Same thing is like 3 Devils, I've got 1 through 4. You know, I don't own the trade paperback, but who cares, right? 3 Floyd's the Alpha King, apparently I need issue number 3, but I've got 1 through 2, 4 through 5. And so in the smallest conceivable amount of space, it tells me everything I need to know. I can report on Detective Comics this way, you know, with I guess they just passed their 1000th issue. I can report on Detective Comics in about 6 lines as far as what things I have and don't have. Of course, if Carl Tietz is watching, he can report on Batman with the things he has and doesn't have on 1 line because he just has them all. Anyway, so that is the collection overview. That one is the report I would very much, you know, if you haven't played with it before, I would very much suggest you give it a look at, because it's far more useful than you know for doing things. All right, let's do a quick check of the chat. And oh my goodness, it looks like the chat hung up again. That is a dang shame. Oh, H2R Graphics, man, I love you, but you got a little work to go on stability. All right. Pause for just a second. I'm going to go pull this up from the second chat window and look at this a different way. I can pull up your chat in this screen because I thought to bring out a another monitor out here, which I will switch to as soon as I figure out where my mouse is. Excellent. Okay, so let's see here. Switching out to... Here is the Livestream studio right there. Okay, so let's pull up the chat on that. And come on, let's play. Oh man, too many windows. Apologize, guys, I'm getting confused. Okay. Sorry, we briefly had control of the computer and now we're losing it again. Excellent. Live streaming. Am I gonna just have to... darn it. Guys, I'm gonna have to continue because I can't afford to take the time to go too far. I'm gonna see if I can do this while I'm talking over a report. I will continue going. We're just gonna press on, darn it, because that's the kind of folks we are. Give me just a second. I'm gonna kill some stuff and we'll take it from there. Where are we going wrong, do I think? Is my browser killing me, or is it H2R? Well, I'm killing both of them. It was one of them, because when I killed both of those, I got control of my machine back again, so... Well, here we are, guys. I hope everything's still going well for you. Alright, so, going to the chat here in YouTube. I love the part where I have to go to my own channel to watch my own chat, just so I can see what's going on. This is a strange way to watch your own podcast. Alright, popping out the chat. Alright, here we go. And Dino Papa says, greetings Pete, user since ComicBase 1 on Mac, 3.5-inch disc. Dino, thank you, welcome to the program, I'm glad you could join us. And I'm going to be greedy and see once again if I can get H2R running. I love the part where I can actually fly out the chat things way too much, and so I keep going back to it. I shouldn't, but I do. Alright, here we go. And turning on the keyer, we got that back, and I think we were once again there. Alright, and have we got... no, we need to switch back to... not the still. I need to switch back. I am on me, but I need to turn on the keyer, and if I show things... agent camp... no. Sorry, we are... okay. Are we playing yet? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Alright. Alright, we have caught over to program, so that is going well. If I turn on the keyer... oh no, that's... I understand what's going on. Sorry, it's that chroma. Boy. Guys, don't try to do this stuff at home. It's gonna make you crazy. Alright. So we should now have a chroma key up, and now if I click on something... alright. We once again have graphics. Let's see here. Boy, oh boy, that needs context. Cam says, my wife's mad you didn't read what she said, LOL. She told me to shut the stream off. Dude, what was the part now? Report 50,000 things, long, only worth someone pay for it. My wife said you only have 56. Oh, sorry. Okay. To Alan DeCamp's wife, I apologize. You only have 56,000? Yeah, that's a thing. Okay, running a report of wanted items. That was the last report I wanted to get to, and we are actually going to get to it. So let's do that right now. All right. If you have only wanted items, once again, you know, is it Covey? Stephen Covey, I believe, is the person who had the quote. Start with the end in mind. The idea is, what do I want to do? All right, so I want wanted items. Well, how do I want to see the wanted items, right? And if the answer is I want the shortest possible list, then I want a collection overview of just, you know, items I want, which is right here, collection overview, and I would say of titles I want, so forth. If I want just wanted, like I've literally, like, I'm not just talking about I'm missing it, but I've clicked off the wanted box in the whole thing, then the report for you, my friend, is the item checklist. All right, where what you would do on this case is you say things like list only wanted items. If we bounce down at the bottom here, list only wanted items is the one for you right there, and then you say exactly how much information you want to give on the whole thing. I'm just going to pick a couple titles to report this on. I actually don't know that I have anything marked as wanted in this database, so this could be a complete fail as a demo. So I may not actually show this report, but let's see if I've got anything. I want to say I had a few things marked under Action Comics as I want them, but let's have a quick look. All right, so we're taking the shotgun approach. We're just doing that. Okay, do that, and let's hit preview. Have I got anything at all that comes up? It's looking. Oh, yeah, there are a few. Okay, so let's bring that one over to the other screen. And there we are. So here, and unfortunately on this one I chose an impossibly small thumbnail. This is the list of the Action Comics that I, just as test, I'm sure, marked as that I want. And so this is the one that would give you that quick list of those things. All right, there's also, by the way, all right, and now let's use that as our segue into what are some other ways I might be able to get that same darn list in different formats that may be more or less convenient to me. All right, and that comes with my good friend Find. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say Find, and I'm going to say find other, so I bring up the full find window. All right, and I'm going to go to item fields over here. Let me zoom this in. My comics, item fields, and let's scroll down until we get to, and there's a lot of things you might be able to do. Let's look for just wanted, right? All right, I don't want to list only items in stock because I want it and I've already got it. That's a moral failing on my part. But anyway, so let's go ahead and look at that list. I'm going to zoom it out. All right. By the way, this really threw some folks earlier on. If you're coming in from an older version of ComicBase, the results of find used to come up in a separate window, and you'd kind of fiddle the different windows around next to each other and try to figure out which was which. In ComicBase, you're always working in kind of a results window. So it's basically, if I'm going from title to title, it's issues of that title. If you're in a find, it's that list of finds. So you're always kind of working with live data in something that is your search. And if it's a search that's different than the title, it comes up and you get this little X bar over here, which shows that you're in kind of an artificial search right now, so you could return to your basic title browsing if you want. But these are all the issues that I had ever marked as that I want. All right, so I marked them. That's cute. I can see them on screen. Great. What else could I do with them? All right, here's where we have this, our friend Quick Report. If you guys remember that, it had to be on the podcast 1 or 2 that we talked about introducing this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click down here. I'm going to select all. That's Control-A is select all. I also could have just, dragged and chosen a few like there. But right now I'm just going to say, let me find all the ones I had marked as wanted. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Quick Report. Or if I'm really cool, I say F7, right? At that point, it's going to pull up a list. Boom. Here's a wanted list of everything in my collection. So let's do that again slowly, just so, if you want to get to a less obscure way. I mean, again, this isn't as pretty a way of seeing your data, but if you want a less obscure way of just saying, give me a wanted list, here's how you go there. You would say find, all right, Control F, and you'd go up under here, you'd say to item fields, you'd scroll down to wanted, and you just say wanted is checked. Do a find. It's going to give you the list. Select one or more things in that list. Maybe if you don't want to report on everything that that was in that list, you can just choose a few things. Or if I want everything in the list, select them all. F7 or print quick report, and there's your list of wanted. And that's, again, much more down and dirty. It gets the job done. There's no pictures, but man, is it a straightforward way of it's a very down, straight to the point way of saying, just give me that stuff. All right, but let's talk about quick report a little bit more here. So I can use any. Remember, I said one of the advantages we did when we did ComicBase 2020 is we said since you're always working in a usable list of find results, and it's not in a separate window which only had some functions you could do, everything I could do here, I can do, everything I could do in the main window, I can always do in my find results because it is the same window. So I can do quick changes, I can, copy and paste, I can do quick reports on things. There's no limited set of functions that you could do on find results like there was in previous versions. Everything's always wide open. So that's pretty cool. So one of the things you can do here is you can also say things like, I want a report of everything that, let's find something fun. Let's go to, here's comics released this week, comics released last week. Those are some of the built-in searches. And give it a sec. 43 things. Wow, have things slowed down in terms of the release schedule. Give it just a second here. And here's a list of everything that came out last week. I could print that, use that to go shopping with. And honestly, if I'm doing, another way of entering your own data, if you're just, buying your Wednesday selections off the whole thing, you could start from give me the things that shipped last week and just go down the line and say, yeah, I bought one of those, bought one of those, bought one of those, bought one of those, whatever the thing is. You could use that as your quick way of entering books that just came out. The thing I was thinking about earlier, though, let's go and do it from here. I'm going to go back to one of the basic finds. I'm going to say things like, let's say writer. Let's find Neil Gaiman, right? And let's find everything that ComicBase knows that Neil Gaiman did, which is some 903 things. So give me an inadvisable amount of time. And see, if I was really cool on doing this thing, I would pick people who'd written like one thing, and this database would be so fast. But anyway, here are a list of 203 things that Neil Gaiman did, including, and like, man, I forgot all about this one. He had done some work for 2000 AD. 2000 AD, if you guys don't know it, is a British weekly. You know, and by weekly, I mean weekly, like every darn freaking week since the 70s, which means this thing has run thousands of issues by now. But it's also the place that most of the British comic artists and writers you've ever heard of got their start, because it's really easy to break in by submitting stories into 2000 AD because they need so much content. I imagine they didn't pay much either, but you know, they're always churning new writers, but that's where Garth Ennis and Grant Morrison and so forth, they all made their break pitching features to 2000 AD, and apparently Neil Gaiman also got some experience under the covers there. American Gods, we all know. Breathtaker, I'd forgotten he might have written an intro or something for it. But anyway, let's say I want to do just the list of things written by Neil Gaiman. Again, find what I want to find, highlight what I want to highlight, quick report, and you've got your report of everything written by Neil Gaiman. By the way, a slightly more interesting thing of this one is let's say I know Neil Gaiman is signing somewhere near me. I can say, let's go back to here, find, I set myself up for failure here by going at this kind of the wrong way. Let's go pull up our find window again. Oh, come on. Find, there you are, other screen. Life is so much easier when you're looking at the same screen that everyone else is. Alright, so find, and let's go for advanced find. You know, I'm doing myself in a little bit here. What I want is our writer. You know, this is the difference between someone who's really planned what they're doing and me. Is because you don't think, oh, hey, that'd be cool, in the middle of doing this stuff, and then wind up giving yourself a find that, is really hard to execute in real time. What I was thinking of doing is saying, let's just do a find here, and I think I managed to move this behind something else. Again, I gotta close some windows. I'm going out of my mind here. Where even is... Did I put that window just now? Oh, there it is, over on monitor number 1. So what I want to do is I want to find item fields. Let's go into writer. Bugger. Sorry, guys. I apologize. I am way too close to too many taskbars right now, and this is just getting laborious to pull off. Anyway, well, I'll say what I meant to do, and we can pretend that I did it, and that it was really cool, and you guys really enjoyed seeing it. But anyway, if you do a find for, say, a writer, and you also check off items in stock in that one while putting in Neil Gaiman, at that point, then you have a chance to say, like, here's everything I've got by Neil Gaiman that I want to get signed that I actually own. As is right now, I'm playing with too much foo with the monitors. I chose a field that I'd need to literally scroll down to get to, and I keep wanting to hitting a taskbar and moving things to other monitors, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm going to stop doing that one now. I only have to step on a brake about 5 times before I eventually learn my lesson. All right, that was find. Let's talk about, though, where the real fun in this whole thing comes from, and that, my friends, is the advanced find. So let me, okay, that's where I put it, back on this monitor. All right, let's go over here, and I'm going to choose advanced find. And let me, all right, if I come up here and I say find what, and I choose advanced find. All right, I'm going to show you easily the ugliest thing in ComicBase, right? The advanced find is meant to be it's almost a backdoor to the entire program in terms of you can kick off basically what amounts to raw SQL queries into the database, which is a programmer way of getting to raw data. There are some limits on it because we need to bring back certain fields all the time, and there are certain tables that we can't let you into just because it wouldn't make any sense. We always need to bring back something that looks like items. We can't just bring back random countries, for instance. But what we do is we say, for instance, I want to be searching for comic books. In particular, I want to find, and then you basically just get to say, what do you want to see, or what conditions do you want to show that someone is in here? And so I can say things like, show me all my comics I've got that are worth more than 10 bucks, right? What I would do is I would say find, go under fields, and go to price. And it's and again, this looks super friendly, right? And it says iPrice, and I say greater than 10, all right? So if I do that right now and I just let it rip, it's going to show everything in the database that's worth more than $10. Let's make it something that's a little more useful and say, and I own it, right? And that, what owning it amounts to is and let's come up under here again, quantity in stock, you see it says I quantity in stock, is greater than 0, all right? And I'm just going to let it spit out in any old order right now. I'm going to bring back the first 1,000 items things it finds and go. All right, let's see what that does. All right, so in about 2 seconds, what it does is it figures out, you know, everything I've got in my collection, which is, is it still working that? I'm sorry, I'm gonna kick that again because I done confused myself. Oh, price is less than 10. Whoops, my bad. All right, sorry. If you guys don't remember like 5th grade math, which apparently I've failed on today, this is this is the less than greater than sign. And the whole idea is that greater than is this one, less than is this one, and the way it was explained, and this will date me worse than anything else you've ever seen, is a child of the 80s, it's Pac-Man, and he's always trying to eat the bigger one. So if this one's bigger than that one, he's pointing that way, and if it's less than that one, he's pointing the other way. All right, so if you guys aren't retarded and don't have any problems remembering your 5th grade math, then this was all silly. But all right, what I meant to do is I meant to say price is greater than $10 and quantity less than 0. And I was wondering, why is it bringing back so many $2 comic books? That was the answer, my friends. Planning is important. So here's everything I've got that's worth more than 10 bucks, and it's coming back, and there are I asked it to bring back the first 1,000 results, and that's exactly what it did. And again, like everything else before, I can take these guys, I can quick report on them, and it's going to give me very quickly everything that I've got going on there that was that I just selected. So let's talk about this a little bit more, and then I'm going to turn over and make this actually be useful. All right, so again, the good news about Advanced Find is I can ask for any weird-ass thing in the database. And if you want to go exploring the database sometime, you can look for just bizarre things. I mean, you can search by ISBN numbers. You can search by, and the picture height is greater than a certain amount. You can look for any number of these weird things that you maybe didn't even know was in the database. Because some of these things are a little hard to find in the columns and so forth. When you get results back, remember you can always sort the items. You can sort them by quantity, you can sort them by cover date. You can, and again, you click anything twice, it's going to reverse sort it. But you can sort any list just by clicking on it and get your results in that order. But another thing you can do here, and this is where this window actually gets a little bit useful, is come up here again. I can load searches and I can save searches. So let's say I've figured out with this weird SQL stuff a particular thing I want to do, but it was a little weird getting there. It required tripping over a few SQL statements and whatever else, and and it was a little strange, and so I want to get to it again. Well, what I can do is I can save that search, and I can give it a name that's easy to remember, and then I can get to it easily. And here's why I'm actually going to do you guys a favor. When you save these searches, they go to a subdirectory of your documents folder called Saved Searches. You can see it right here. It's, and that's your name, Peter Bickford, in your documents, inside Human Computing, the Save Searches folder. And what I did is I made a few, searches ahead of the show, just answer some requests people have had. So, for instance, here's my expensive comics, right? Here's comics I own, they're worth more than 50 bucks, or at least comics that I said I owned for the purpose of this demo. And all I gotta do is do that, hit find, and boom, I got my list. And, of course, I dreamed. I said I'd Batman #1. But you've got your list right there. Another one you can do here is, let's look at some of these other save searches. So that's my expensive comics. Comics that increased more than 20% from last year. All right, let's look at this one in a little bit more detail so you can see the method of my madness here. All right, what I'm saying is, my quantity in stock is greater than 0. In other words, I own it, right? I don't, right, for the purposes of what I'm doing right now, I don't care just about comics in general that went up 20%. I care about the comics I own. So I'm always saying my quantity in stock is greater than 0. And magic word and, right? Because I want both these things or I don't want to see it. And then I said, its value in year 4. Value, so remember there's 4 pricing years, right? Which currently are 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Next year they will slide down by 1, and it'll be 2018 through 2021. But for right now, year 4 is the current year. Year 3 is last year, right? So what I said is where the value it has this year is greater than the value it had last year times 1.2, or 120% of last year's value. So anything that's over 20% of last year's value is going to show up on this list. All right, and talk just momentarily about this order by down here. Now remember, I can always switch the results around any way I want just by clicking column headings, but let's say I want just to come up in a nice order to start with. What I'm saying is I want to order them in order of their price. And then I added this other magic word here. It's short for descending, des, which is to say the default, if I had left it out and I just said order them by price, it's going to list them from lowest to highest of the price here. I wanted to see them in, highest to lowest, because that way it puts the most impressive comics at the top, right? So what I did is I said, once again, show me things that I got them, quantity greater than 0, their value this year is bigger than their value last year times 120%, or 1.2, right? I want to put them in order by their price, descending. And that's how I wound up with this highly fictional list of Batman comics I own, right? So, anyway, so I got that. I want to show you one more kind of built-in one over here, and then I'm going to turn over the rest of the time and answer nothing but questions. Actually, I'm going to talk about mobile. I'm going to answer more of your questions. By the way, if you stuck with me waiting on the mobile thing, man, thank you for your patience. I meant to get to it earlier, and I had just enough tech support issues that I lost my show notes, and I'm having to wing it. All right, so let's go back here to our find, and I'm going to load up one last search that I'm including in the goodies here, which is mistaken barcode entry. All right. You guys, anyone who has a barcode, I know at some point this has happened to you, and you probably called us, or you freaked out and didn't call us, and you just hate us. But it's this. As a lot of y'all know, is a barcode is nothing, as far as your computer is concerned, a barcode is nothing but a really fast keyboard. It types whatever numbers are visible in the barcode. It essentially just types them really fast. So as far as the computer is concerned, that's what all that is. Well, if you look at a standard barcode, and I think this should be visible on camera. Yeah, there you go. All right. If you look at the small numbers on there, what is this particular barcode? Well, this particular barcode is a number that is like, 85,534,800,000,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you just took all the numbers and put them together, that's what you'd wind up with. So at some point in life, almost everyone who's ever used the program has had the problem happen to them where they've gone to their collection statistics and they've gotten just a crazy, crazy value out of it. And what that comes from typically is I was adding my, I was scanning things, I started typing things, I wasn't thinking about where my cursor was necessarily, and it was sitting in either a quantity field or a value field, and I scanned in a barcode, and I went, oh wait, that's not it. I went to the next one, and I forgot about that whole thing happening. As a result, what happens is you wake up one day, you go to your collection statistics, and you're amazed to find out that you are like a kerjillionaire. And really what you think is the program mangled your data, which is certainly what it looks like. But it turned out there's a really easy solution to it, which is just find where you went wrong, right? And the way you find where you went wrong is this query. So basically, if you have a value that's just nuts, right, for the value of your collection, it means that one of two things got really, really high. And let me get my cursor. Oh, tell me I didn't lose my find window again. Where are you? There you are. Okay. It means either your quantity field got zapped and you put a huge number in there, or one of your value fields got zapped with the barcode and you put a huge number in there. So what this search does is it looks through your quantities and it says, show me anything I've got where I've got more than 100 of them. because I don't know about y'all, I don't collect more than 100 of any comic book, not intentionally. If you're a Torpedo Comics, this does not apply to you. Change this number to the number that makes sense to you. Torpedo Comics is the folks who we literally had to change the type that we use to track quantities in ComicBase when they came along. Torpedo Comics is their customer and good folks, but their model is apparently they have like warehouses out in the Nevada desert where they store comics that they acquired from other retailers that didn't do so well or needed to get rid of comic books very cheaply for some reason. And so they blow them out to the end users very, half price or less because they bought them for much less than half price. But they have a lot of comics. They had bought apparently like the world supply of Batman Spawn and Spawn Batman. And as a result, they called me up one day and they said, yeah, we got a problem. ComicBase isn't allowing me to put in more than 32,767 copies of Spawn Batman #1. And because that's the maximum number that it's called a signed integer can have in computers at the time. We literally had to change the type we used for quantity as a result of Torpedo Comics having more than 32,000 copies of a single issue. All right, that's that story. I don't know what their stock is now. I finally sold the last of mine, but anyway, I have no more in my life. I never have more than 100 copies of any comic on purpose. But I also want to see things where the value year 4 is greater than $500,000 and it looks like I own it. So in other words, I've got it in stock, right? Quantity stock greater than 0, and the value is greater than $500,000. So because I know I have no comics worth more than $500,000, if I look for things that are higher than that, and that look like they're in stock, or if I look for things where it looks like I've got more than 100 copies of them, I'm going to find where I stuck my barcode by accident. At which point, all I got to do is change the bad one, and it'll appear right down here. I look at either the quantity or the value field, and I go, oh, there it is. Change it back to a sensible number, and my whole problem goes away. All right, that was that. Let me talk about the mobile, and then we'll get back to questions, and we're going to wrap it, and I'm going to have a beer. So, all right, if you've got, and let me see here, let me pull up the key here, the very first chat question, and thank you so much for putting this in. Greg C. says, I've got about 70,000 comics in my collection. How do I upload so I can have it on the mobile device? I need it so I don't buy doubles at conventions. This was exactly my problem, and the whole reason this feature exists in the program. The way you get your data up to the web to start with, you can save a report to the web. A better way to go is let Sidekick do it for you. So basically go down to, let me switch back to the monitor just for a second. Actually, it's not the wrong monitor. I'm done playing with the computer for now. Basically, load up Sidekick, go down to the bottom right where where Sidekick is. When you go save to cloud, under the preferences for that in Sidekick, there's an option to automatically make a few reports. I would strongly suggest for everyone watching it right now, don't bother with the issue checklist unless you really need that level of detail, but do bother with the collection overview. Remember, I said it's my go-to report for viewing on mobile device. Do want go for a collection overview and maybe a collection report. And what will happen is when you back your database up to the web, which ideally you're doing on a schedule, what will happen then is it will automatically make those reports for you. So you don't need to remember to do them. So anytime you go about your business, that report will always be sitting there for you, and you'll be able to get to it from the mobile app. All right, the mobile app, switching to me, I've got this on my trusty iPad over here. All right, and I'll just pull this up so you know I'm not cheating, right? So here's ComicBase.mobile app, all right, and when I was really cool, I had an overhead camera for this, but I'm just gonna move on. This guy over here, here's a collection right there. Here's the overview of what I've got, and then you see down at the bottom, it's got a list of your reports. So here's the collection overview for my books. Let me switch to the collection overview for my comic books. Right there, and if I say view report, you guys will remember this report from before, and it's real, right? This is really my stuff, and I can get to any of it from here. This report is, since Sidekick is generating it for me every week when it backs up my database, it's always there for me when I want it on the go. And This is just the coolest feature, is, for me, as far as this goes. I don't know, it's a little depressing. I apparently have lost $138 in value in the last week, so I'm a little bummed about that. Hey, comics go up in price, they go down in price. This is a real thing. But anyway, that is how I would go about doing that sort of thing. Basically, the interface is Sidekick. Make sure your database is listed in Sidekick. When you go in Sidekick, make sure that you choose the option under Preferences to on Save to Cloud, that you have it automatically create your collection overview report, and then just download the free ComicBase mobile app. It's free for any Pro or Archive user with a current subscription. You can get it in either the App Store for Apple or Android, and you're good to go. So that should take care of you. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's check what else we got going on in the chat here. We are well over time, but we'll see how we're doing. Let's see here. Judge Dredd. Sorry, let's see here. Wow, we have. I don't know if we can get all this in there, but all right. So, Asia Camp said, I thought you eliminated the option. I think he's talking about. So there was a. All right. So what the question was there? We're talking about the wanted lists. We used to have. Remember how we always kind of direct people to the collection report as a go-to report for doing things. The collection report, though, is kind of defined as stuff I've got. And so we used to have an option for wanted comics, but what would happen is everyone would want it to show things I want, but I don't have, whereas the collection report itself was only the things you do have. And so it wound up causing just a lot of tension. And so what we did is we got rid of the option off the collection report because it kind of put those two things in conflict. It settled that conflict by making it so that, look, we're just not going to ask you about things that you already have but which you somehow want, because really what you meant to do is you meant to get to your wanted list some other way, either by completing a title with a titles report, by going to the issue checklist and showing the things you want, or just the find wanted and printing the other thing. So it's possible that we want to go back and make a more explicit, just one-shot wanted report. Maybe that's a good idea. Let me know in the chat. We're open to suggestions on this one. By the way, one thing I wanted to say. Now I've answered my statutory obligation of answering the first chat question that came in an hour and a quarter ago. I'm so sorry that we got so rambly on this one. But since I've actually answered that, I do want to know, what reports would you like the program to have built in that you don't have? Now, I'm asking this for a couple reasons. One is we are looking to buff out the reporting in ComicBase going forward, make some of the things that are a little more advanced, make them a little bit more forward-facing, so you don't need to know so much to get to them. That said, here's the part I worry about a little bit, and that is I started life as a programmer, and whenever you start your life as a programmer at any business, you start as like a thing called a business analyst usually. Where you're the poor schmuck who has to write the reports for, say, the insurance, arbitrators or actuaries and so forth, and they have a massive, massive collection of every report that anyone has ever wanted, tailored exactly for them. So it's like, yeah, Pete, could you write me a list of customers with X amount of coverage who live in the Poughkeepsie area, who have more than $50,000 worth of exposure, who bought their policies last month, and what happens then is you make that report, and you're like, okay, great, type, do the thing, save, and then you think, okay, what happens next? And what happens is that goes into a big directory with every other report anyone's ever asked for, which has grown so massive, no one ever bothers looking for the same thing again. So usually what happens is they then call you next month and say, yeah, I want the same thing, except now I want it from the Lower Tennessee Valley area who bought their reports last month, or else. And you wind up doing a million little variations on the same kind of report, and they get lost in this huge catalog of reports you've done before, and it's really not super useful. I mean, at some point you really want to build in, ideally, the ability to have kind of like some general ideas of reports with some options you can kind of tick off that make them pretty easy to get to where you want, but the overall list isn't so massive that nobody can find anything. Like, we have like 6 reports or 7 reports in this thing, in a way, but we still have, I spent 10 minutes explaining why the collection overview report was a genius report and everyone should use it, right? So I don't want to roll out like a million named reports, but if there are some ones I can roll out that will give a real big bang and people absolutely get what they do, and it's a quick way to solve that problem, then I'm all ears. I want that one. But I'm nervous because I spent too many years in the trenches, growing up in the computer industry, where I know what happens when you just start piling them on. So I want to be really tactical about, I want to be really strategic about the kind of reports we add to the program in terms of canned reports. What I would prefer, ideally, is a big concept report, something that's very clear in what it's meant to do, that gives you enough parameters that you can choose that makes it really easy for you to kick off and get what you want. That's probably what I want to do. But that said, and that was a lot of preamble, what sorts of things would you like the program to be able to do going forward that you're not seeing now? Please answer in the chat, and if you're still typing and somehow the chat ends or whatever, send me a note at support@comicbase.com. I am all ears right now. This is exactly the time where I really want to know these answers. So, back to comments. Let's see, is there a better way to show up with cover picks for the wanted list? Alan DeCamp, say yes, do a issue checklist with wanted, because then with the issue checklist, one of the features is that you can choose the cover icon size, and so that's a useful thing. And John pointed out that Judge Dredd started in 2000 AD. Yes, it's an issue number 2, which I have. I once had 2 copies of it. It was pretty cool. Honestly, I hate to say it, but the story isn't all that good, but the character's cool. Adding publisher comics that were released this week. For instance, DC Comics released this week. I like that. I like that suggestion. Again, it fulfills the requirement where, like, I can absolutely see the use case for it, and it's easy to think of how you give it one drop down. It's like, what publisher do you want, and then you get a list of those. Or it gets a little murkier if you want to select more than one publisher, because then I got to show you a list of all the publishers and let you choose more than one, which, because we have so many publishers, that might be a problem. But if you say things like, hey, show me Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, or anybody else, and let them choose from a list, great idea. I like that. I like the idea a lot. Okay. And then we have some talk about who has discs from different versions. Hate moving the PC. Dino, I feel you, man. This is the perennial question of when is ComicBase ever coming out for the Mac? Man, we're trying, but Apple's not making it easy. I want to see podcast number 5 for the long version of all that. Okay, let me see here. Confident Man says, what kind of backlog do we have for covers submitted for inclusion with ComicBase? We usually clear it every week, is my understanding, but if you so what happens when you submit corrections is all right, so corrections, if you guys ever don't know the process, the way it works is that you've got some data in your database, or you've got a cover that we haven't seen, or things like that. You highlight the line, you right click, you say submit new or corrected data, and then it sends all the information about that entire item up to us. It also does a quick check and says, do we have a cover for this thing? And if we do, is yours bigger? Now, if yours is bigger, or if we didn't have a cover, it'll say, yeah, we notice you happen to have a cover. Could we have it? In which case, if you say yes, then it sends it to our server, and those things get stuck in the staging area. The staging area, every week, we try our darndest, and we get awfully close every week to clearing the backlog from the week before. We get thousands and thousands and thousands of corrections every week, in submissions and new data and some foreign issues. And this is how the database is growing at such an alarming rate. So the editors will go through as many of those things as they possibly can, and then they do a dump from all the covers that came in into the whole thing, and they get automatically matched to the right folders and so forth, unless something went just hellaciously wrong, and sometimes they twist the wind a little bit. Another thing that would make covers twist in the wind a little bit is if you send us a cover in that is just different than the one we've got. So if we had like the D variant of a particular comic, and you put in that what we thought was the E cover for it, or you give us a cover image that's different than that, that one turns into a research project, because the one thing we really don't want to do is reassign variants unless we just plain got them just wrong is wrong, because again, we have the problem that as soon as you put your data into the program, we can't be switching it around on you, or just, it's chaos. Like if I said I've got darkness on 100, I've got the B cover, the C cover, and the E cover. Let's assume for the sake of argument, none of these were labeled. We just categorized them as they came in. We did our best. Well, let's say later on someone decides that the weird glowing demon baby cover wasn't the G cover after all. It was really the real C cover, and they submit it that way to us. And hey, maybe the publisher even years later puts out a list where they identify it that way, but they didn't identify it at the time. You might be right. But the problem is, we now have thousands of users who might have put in that they own copy 100C of Darkness. And if we switch the cover on what that means on them, we will screw those folks over. And so we really don't want to do that if we can possibly avoid it. So if you send in any kind of cover variant change, that is a real research project for us. Those, I'm going to admit, those get pushed toward the back. That said, if you didn't see your stuff come up in a week or so, send a note to support@comicbase.com and prod the editors a little bit and say, hey man, what's up with that? Because I'm not seeing things coming down. But yeah, typically we manage to get pretty. I'm going to say 90% of the data gets processed every week, including the covers. By the way, we can't process your cover until we put the entry in ComicBase. So if it's a new entry and you haven't seen the entry show up in ComicBase, the cover's waiting for the entry to appear. So that's what's up with that. Okay, other specific SQL searches could be PDF photos we're posting in the forums. I love that idea as well. Let me see if we can make that happen. So by the way, I put a note in the show links. You saw me doing some of these special searches before the show. In the show notes is a zip file of all the saved searches that we talked about here. And the way to use those is unzip the file, copy them into your saved searches folder on your machine, or you could just, I guess you could just open them up and load them, from wherever you put them. But they're best if you put them in the saved searches folder under, your personal documents, human computing, saved searches. If you copy them into there, then you'll always have them. It's almost like having a new function in the program, but you'll always have those available to you. The link is in the show notes for the show today. But honestly, I think it's a great idea. Let's see if we maybe could put together a forum posting area where we could have kind of like cool searches people have done and kind of aggregate these together so that when people want to get to them, they'd have like more or less a database of, or at least a big listing of those. I think it's a great idea. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Oro says, I'm actually ComicBase, my brain's secret identity revealed. Don't know the advanced search syntax. So the advanced search syntax is, and I'm going to admit, this is annoying, and the problem is it's something that targets the most advanced guys we've got, and it's also the absolute hardest to make auto-doing. In other words, I haven't got a really simple way. I've never seen it done. Where someone has done a nice drag-and-droppy way of assembling SQL searches that's flexible enough to give you all the flavor of what SQL can do with all its conditional clauses and parentheticals and all that stuff like that, while at the same time making it so you can never create a syntax error. I've never seen it done, and the efforts I did see do are, from an interface standpoint, so complicated to implement that I could probably implement like another version of ComicBase while trying to make it that little bit better. So that is why advanced find is mercilessly hard to use. It is the hardest, roughest part of the program, but it's the most powerful thing if you get the gist of it. The basic gist of it is it's SQL select syntax in terms of like what's legit, like what can you say, and or not, parentheses, put quotes around the different things and so forth. All the things that apply as rules in SQLite select, those are the same rules we're using, because all we're really doing is firing off a select statement. We don't give you access to a lot of stuff that make them super hard to write, but we give you a lot. But that's the general rules. That said, if that's not where you live and think and play, honestly, post things to the forums and say, look, I'm looking for a search that does this. Man, we have a couple of users who have put together so many cool searches for people. It's just a great thing about the ComicBase community. My hat's off to them for doing that kind of work, and it's also a resource that you can draw on as a user as well. All right. Let's see here. Still planning to add search of the price increase to a specific comic from week to week. I am. We'll talk about that in the Crystal Palace thing. All right, let's see here. Let's see, certainly helpful many things. Let's see here. Oh, what beer, Pete? So today, I think we'll be rocking a Brewhouse Blonde from New Heights Brewery. It's I take it's not blind. It's a cream ale. It's called Nothing Fancy, and it's nothing fancy, but damn, it's tasty, and it's a hot day, so it's gonna go down well. Okay. Yes, I think it was Stealth DBA. Stealth is the king of SQL servers stuff for the ComicBase community. You do need the Pro or the Archive edition to use these features. Let's see. I like the Wanted reports. Yes, excellent. We will look into that. Let's see. Something about the update disk 100 gigabytes to replace the Blu-ray disc quarterly. So I think what this is referring to is there was an issue with if you've got the Blu-ray. So if you ComicBase Blu-ray, unique little product for us in that it not only ships on as as big an optical disc as normal human beings can distribute, which is a 50 gig Blu-ray. So we give you 4K images whenever we have them. We give them the highest, up to 4K image size and the whole thing, and we give them to as high a quality as will fit on a 50 gig Blu-ray disc. That is very cool. That's one part of why the Blu-ray is cool. The other part about the Blu-ray is cool is we give you quarterly updates on disc every quarter. So we actually mail you a new disc with the whole art library. So you've always got the whole thing in your hands, which is just neat. That's it. We're it's a pain in the butt. I mean, it's a ton of postage for us. We spend, just a couple days sticking labels on things. It sounded like a really good idea when we did it, and it mostly still a good idea for us to do it, but it is awfully labor intensive. And then the other problem we're getting is it's 660,000 items in the library. When we first introduced the Blu-ray disc, there were only 2 discs in the archive set. We've had to increase that to 4. There's just so much data we're dealing with right now that honestly I'm thinking like the really nice way to view this kind of stuff is if you've got not a Blu-ray disc but a BDXL disc, a 100 gig Blu-ray disc, because then we could really ramp the quality up even more, and then they look really great. Problem is there's no economic way on the planet we can ship that to you unless we add like another $100 to the price of it, and we don't want to do that. So what we're doing is we're making an offer. If you're a Blu-ray customer and you're willing to give up us mailing you a quarterly Blu-ray disc, we will take that same money and use it to pay for the bandwidth required to serve you up the 100 gig BDXL one we wish we could be mailing you. And we'll do that instead. And we'll send you a secret set of links to download that every quarter. So that's a real thing. If you'd like to swap your regular Blu-ray subscription to the download-only one, it's entirely your option. But if you'd like to do that, we've actually just rigged up some new media distribution servers so that we got some extra bandwidth to serve those up. It shouldn't choke us quite as badly when some folks come in and say, 10 guys at once say, yeah, I absolutely want to download 100 gigabytes of data from your server all at once. That'd be great. Anyway, it's not going to hit our server anymore, so that also is great for us. But we can make that happen for you. Just send a note to support@comicbase.com, and we will swap you from a physical to a virtual Blu-ray subscription, and in return we'll also offer you the option to up your resolution to the 100 gig version. So, all right. Don't forget, you can still post requests to the live stream. Thank you very much, Greg. Topics demos are in the dedicated thread. And the show notes we mentioned, and okay, on the YouTube page. So if you go back to the whole thing, yes, there's the whole thing. Oh, one last thing. I am not letting you out of here before I show you the upshot of the DC thing last time. And by the way, thank you very much to Gregory Hecht, who clued me on some more information about the DC thing. I want to follow up with it next week because we're so over time right now. But it's just, let's just say, there's some things I fear just in terms of my own life. Just being honest with what you're going through life as. We're human, so we're going to be wrong about a lot of things, and sometimes the things we're wrong about, cause us to make decisions that are like, oh, wow, that was maybe not a great decision for me if I'd known more about the way the world was. Just the way I'm made up, I'm constantly a little bit worried about, like, well, okay, is what I believe exactly on point about this or that and the other thing? So I'm always wanting to check this stuff. But certain models of things, the way to get something that's wrong into my belief system past me is for you to change it really slowly. Like if it changes really fast, like, oh, I don't know, you close all the world's comic stores at once, I can figure out that might have some implications for the comics market because something changed really fast. if something changes really slowly, like the mix of retailers in like whether or not Diamond is the king of the hill or not, or whether different things are making their way into the comic market, which as it turns out they were. If it changes really slowly, I could wind up being profoundly wrong about the ultimate effect of that and never see it coming. And this is it's just a thing in all of our lives. Is all the things you just assume were true because you had it. It became a heuristic. You never need to check again because it never seemed to be righteously wrong. But then you wake up one day and you realize, oh my God, I got a different view on the situation. And I realize I was looking at only a slice of the whole situation. Anyway, I want to say Gregory Heck forwarded me on some graphs on the comic market from Comicron and ICV2, Publishers Week out. Might have been Publishers Weekly as well, but really interesting information. I want to go over them next time out. But I was saying at the end of that last show on the DC that I wanted to not just talk crap about DC. I felt like I felt like I was kicking someone when they're down, and that's never. I never want to be that guy. It just feels like, where's this all going? So we're all wondering. So having known a little bit more about that, I have some more thoughts. They've been a little bit more refined, and I want to talk about that next time out. But for right now, I want to talk about the happy news about that, which is that I discovered this really great source for graphic novels online. And, these really beautiful hardcover graphic novels from Eagle Moss out of England, where they were miraculously, an outfit called Zavvi was shipping them over to the US for like any amount of them for like $8. And this was insane. And after I figured out that it wasn't a complete scam, like there were 5 of them and they showed up like 2 days later for my $8 shipping, I figured out that I'm going to order every single one they have, because this is just a phenomenal deal. You're basically buying hardcover, beautifully printed graphic novels for the price of a weekly floppy comic book. And they're being delivered to you in 3 days from England for essentially no shipping. Astounding deal. So I included a copy of the link to the graphic novels out there for you guys in the show notes. Now I will say I am a day late on getting this out to you because the podcast on Wednesday. Until yesterday, they had a slightly larger number of these available to you, and they were apparently feeling more desperate to get rid of them. They switched from being 5 for £14.99, or £3 each, which is to say about $4 each. They had them briefly going 10 for £19.99, so they were £2 each, which is to say about $2.75 maybe, an issue. And that was, I saw that all the way up until yesterday. They're now back up to 5 for £15, which is still a hell of a deal. But they also seem to have a few less than they did before. I think what's really happening is they picked up a bunch of overstock from Eagle Moss. They blew them out super cheap, and they're shipping them to even us idiots over here in England, not England, but in America, who are just, happy to get a hold of really beautifully printed graphic novels for cheap. Anyway, I bought as many as I could buy from them, and I knew there's another problem with this whole situation, in that when you put them together in order, on the spines, they form a picture. And as I mentioned, this is the way to get me to buy a ton of anything, is give me the jigsaw puzzle effect of just, oh man, I've almost got this, but I can't see the rest. I just want to quickly show y'all what this picture looks like. I think I can pull this graphic up. There you go. So that is my bookshelf, having gone to town at Zavvi's site, and honestly, I want to say that this is probably just about $100 worth of spend for me. I mean, this was nothing. But as you can see, it's the Alex Ross, the JLA heroes, followed by the villains. Pretty good shot of the villains. Pretty complete on that score. And then there's another round. The bits in between are actually the DC logo. So they kind of form a little mini series on the whole thing. So if you had the whole set, you'd have like the entire Alex Ross oeuvre from DC, along with DC logos set between them a couple times. I believe if you were over in England right now, they are actually a subscription service from Eagle Moss. So you'd get them for about £12 a graphic novel. They'd mail them to you, 3 of them to you every 6 weeks or so, and you would just keep on filling out your bookshelf. Unfortunately, this is not economical if you don't live in England, because it's like $40 in shipping per book. So your best, your best thing if you want to dip into this is loot Zavvi for all it's worth. Go to eBay, grab whatever you can from American people who somehow got a hold of the rest. And if there are any American sellers who somehow had in England where they can get the rest of them, I've now caused myself a huge problem in that I've started a jigsaw puzzle I can never finish. And even though I look over at my bookshelf and I say, these look gorgeous, the spots in between it will slowly drive you nuts if you're constructed anything like me. So be warned, but if you're wanting to dump into that graphic novel sale of theirs, that is what you can get if you buy the lot out over at Zavvi. So anyway, that is about it from me today. Thanks so much for attending. This has been a record-setting long one, but anyway, it's been fun, and I hope it was useful to you, and thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.